All right, let's move on now with a look through the mornings of French newspapers with Belle Lupton, who's been having a good read for us. Hi there, Belle.
Hello.
We're going to start off, you're going to take us to the seaside, which is nice for this last day of August. We're in La Rochelle, but we're talking politics. The French president has been down there at La Rochelle.
He has. It was meant to be the summer school for the Socialist Party, so for François Hollande's Socialist Party, in the West Coast seaside resort of La Rochelle. But rather than coming together, the party spent the weekend tearing itself apart. Well, that is according to Le Figaro, certainly. Not only between themselves, says Le Figaro, but also with the Greens, who are currently part of Hollande's coalition. After this show this weekend, it's unlikely, says Le Figaro, that the two parties will rekindle their alliance come December when the regional elections happen. To put out the fire, says Le Figaro, and to try and reunite his camp, Manuel Valls was forced to go back to the politics of the left. So you've got that kind of language of campfires and summer schools, but not quite so cheerful. In an editorial, the Prime Minister, again in the same paper, the Prime Minister is quoted saying, there is no question of changing the 35-hour working week. And he was ready to put back in his place his too libertarian and too audacious economy minister, that's Emmanuel Macron. In an editorial, same paper again, Macron pointedly, it says, was not invited to La Rochelle. And he apparently had announced 2 days earlier that for a long time, the left has believed that France can do better by working less. But that, says Macron, is all behind us now. So we can see why he possibly wasn't invited there.
Indeed, and sticking with that theme of labour laws, the Prime Minister has said that this is going to be a priority. Is that still the case?
It is, absolutely. And for the financial paper Les Echos, they're saying that the Prime Minister has embarked on what they call a tightrope walk. He's refusing to attack the 35-hour working week, while at the same time saying that he will take on France's over-complex working employment regulations.
So they are very complicated.
They are incredibly complicated.
Hiring, firing, it's notorious.
Exactly. Employee rights, the rest of it. I mean, absolutely impossible to kind of dissect. Now, he says he's happy to take on most of those regulations, but he won't be touching that sacrosanct 35-hour week, which is what Les Echos calls the taboo of the left. Now, in Les Echos, again, an editorial goes on to say that in Valls' version of social democracy, they see a variable object, I'm quoting here, whose contours shift according to the liberal pulse of the Prime Minister. Now, you can see there the typically florid language of the French press, but the paper there is doubting that these contortions that the Prime Minister goes through are helpful to businesses. And those contortions certainly don't please the far left either. In communist paper L'Humanité, it comes out saying that the Prime Minister and especially the Economy Minister their tandem, it says, is certainly not the future of the left. Now, for pro-business paper L'Opinion, the party's division can only prove one thing, that the party has a systematic problem and that it's high time, it says, for the government to stop kneeling before the statues of another era, I'm quoting, in order to implement its reforms.
All right, well, let's move away from these political matters to a journalistic scandal. Two French investigative journalists who've been questioned over charges that they were trying to blackmail the King of Morocco. It's an extraordinary story.
It is. And according to Le Monde's website, secret recordings of conversations between a lawyer representing Morocco and those two journalists seem to confirm that they demanded €3 million not to publish a book that they'd been working on, which contained damaging revelations about King Mohammed VI. Now, Le Parisien has an interview with one of those journalists who defends herself. She's called Catherine Gracier. She rejects this accusation in an interview with the tabloid. She says the Moroccan lawyer was actually the one who openly offered them money not to publish the book. It wasn't them trying to blackmail. So she says, I fell into a trap. You can see there, je suis tombée dans un piège, admitting that she did allow herself to be tempted by the money.
Very interesting indeed. Right now, as we've been talking about, it is the end of the summer holidays here in France. So commiserations to anyone who's going back to school in France right now. We're talking there about teachers, not pupils, and talk of strikes on the cards.
I know. And we've only just gone back to school and already strikes might be happening as soon as September, would you believe? Le Parisien says that the Education Minister, Najat Vallaud-Belkacem, is sticking to her guns. These reforms will go through in 2016, she says. this. But Libération has a nice little look at the teachers who are innovating in their classrooms themselves. A science of happiness, they say, which goes against the cliches of national education as uninspiring.
Some inspiring revelations coming out in the papers, at least. Thanks very much, Belle Lupton. We'll be back a little bit later on for us looking through the international papers as well.